Hello, everybody. To those of you that might be waiting, and those of you that have been attending these sessions previously, you're more than welcome to type a little comment on the chat just to say hi, since it's always nice to know that I'm not just talking to myself in this little camera on my laptop. My name is Lisa Jane. For those of you who have never interacted with me before, I'm a healer from Cape Town, South Africa, and a metaphysical guide, which means I get to perceive energy in all of its forms. And I use a variety of my abilities to make sense of the world around me and to make sense of that world for my clients and all of the other people I engage with. So in terms of, tonight's session, there are always so many topics going round my head. And this morning, when I went for a long run in the forest, there was a number of conversations I had with my guides and with spirits about what exactly we were going to talk about today. But it landed on one specifically. Zoe, hello, Zoe. Welcome. Sorry, while I'm settling down, I'm going to say hello to those that come along. So I hope you don't mind. But there was one particular topic that settled in and that felt like this was a strong one that I had to share with you today. So I hope you enjoy what I have to say. But first, how are you all doing? It is crazy energy out there, to say the least. Those of you who have worked with me before know that my communication from spirit into this little human brain comes in the forms of symbolism. And those that attended my meditation on Friday morning know that I mentioned about the layers that are being shaken up at the moment. And that is the first few layers of the earth and those above us in the astral plane. So that if you were connecting in any form, I said you need to bypass those layers, right? Because it's a bit like these shock waves of energetic vibration, and specifically highly charged emotional energetic vibrations are really scattering across the planet. So it's going to take a lot of self-awareness and discipline to remain centered. And for you to understand where you're being sucked into those areas where you don't need to. So yes, breathing, coherent, meditation, staying centered. The second thing I wanted to mention is just a reminder why I offer these talks. And for those of you that haven't seen the very first one, you might want to go back and watch. But it was that I had a huge, huge push from Spirit to share these talks in the light of where we are globally, in the light of the fact that all of the energy matrices on which our planet has been based for the last few 100,000 years are collapsing, that many more people are awakening to a higher way of being, and that each and every person is responsible for creating that new world, is responsible for creating the new earth. Right? So each one of us has to take responsibility for doing that. And so that is the reason why I started sharing these live chats, just to give you information, to give you knowledge, to give you some guidance. So please also, if you have a question, you can pop that in the chat and I'll see if I can answer it. But let's get into tonight's topic, because this is a very important one. And I'm going to be talking about thoughts as energy, how we need to understand them, how we need to control them, and how we need to take responsibility for them. So there are two principles that I want to chat to in that regard. And that is, and you've probably heard these things, is that energy follows thought and energy never dies. Okay. So I'm not a quantum physicist, but I'm relying on my few 100,000 lifetimes worth of knowledge and my current workings with clients to give you an understanding of how the thought process works. And again, please, this is not conclusive. Other people may have other ideas, but for me, in my my own mind ramblings and understandings and my communication with spirit and my guides in the universal field, I've come to some understanding. It is a current understanding, and each day my understanding grows. So you might well find that this information changes and becomes more expansive as I continue my work. But what I want you to consider is if energy follows thought, and if energy never dies, then one has to take a really strong responsibility for those thoughts that you are generating. Because a thought is energetic in nature, a thought has a frequency and an amplitude, and dependent on that frequency and amplitude, it's going to have an effect on your field, and it's going to have an effect on other people's fields. So let's take a simple example, right? Because we can take a simple thought, and maybe this might be a thought you think about yourself or a thought you think about others. But let's take one you think about yourself. Now, what happens in the thought process, if a thought is energy and energy never dies, is that if you continually think a certain thing, hold a belief, have that chattering in your mind, the longer you do that and the longer you align to that frequency, the more it becomes embedded in your field. So I'm just now talking simplistically about a thought in your field, right? Some thoughts about you. When we get into a thought about others, and dependent on its intensity in terms of the feeling we have around it, then it may have an amplitude that sends it further out of our field into the group collective, and ultimately may even impact a person or groups of people. So the biggest and most powerful thing that you can do to change the world at this point in time, apart from working on our heart center, hello Rashmi, which I've spoken about in other videos, and I'll probably speak more. Today I'm looking at thoughts, is to develop a strong sense of self-awareness of what goes on in this rambling mind. Because it has always been my biggest belief that we are God's greatest distraction. And we are his, her, it, them, they, its greatest experiment in distraction away from our center, right? So if we are these energy generators in the sense that we are connected to earth, we're channeling source energy, we have a toroidal field around us, various shapes and sizes dependent on how connected we are, how coherent we are, how open we are, that we are generating energy all the time. And in particular, what I'm talking about tonight is we are generating energy as a thought pattern. So I have seen clients who have thought something for a long period of time. What happens is that thought crystallizes in their field. So for instance, well, you know the saying she's a stuck record. Hello, Katie, right? Repeating round and round. When I'm in a client's field and I'm offering healing and they are holding a repeating pattern of a thought in their head, I might tune into their mental energy and literally see this tape running and have to unravel the tape to try and clear that out. Now, whilst I can do that, if that client goes back into the pattern of repeating, recycling thoughts, what do you think is going to happen? Well, that thought is again going to crystallize, right? So let's talk about a thought that has a higher amplitude. In other words, a thought that leaves your field and goes into someone else's. Now here we're in the realm of something like an obsessive thought about someone. Hello, Elizabeth. A repetitive thought about someone. A negative thought about someone. Because here, okay, let's get into that. Negative or positive. Now that's frequency. So if we just want to look scientifically about the frequency and the amplitude. So in quantum physics, energy is a package, right? The amplitude is the amount of energy that package holds. So we have an energy, we have a quantum field that holds a frequency that is a positive or negative vibration or any variation in between. And there is an amplitude in terms of the way we feel about it as to how far it's going to actually be sent out. Because you will remember when we first started chatting, energy never dies. So if we take accountability for the fact that we are energy generators, and in this case, our thoughts are generating energy all the time, then we have to make the choice, because it is a choice, right? To make this field our servant and not for us to be a slave of that. Because many people will be, I can't control my thoughts. And yes, you can. You can control your thoughts, and you must. Where we are now in the energetic chaos that is around us, each person needs to take personal responsibility for their field, and in this case, their thoughts. Right? So the first step is to taking responsibility and making a conscious choice to start becoming aware of what's happening. Because we also have different levels. We have this conscious mind, then we have a higher mind, and then we have the universal mind. And I'm simplifying it here because there's any number of layers in between. So if we realize and if we look at ourselves that we are energetic beings, that we are vibrating at a particular frequency, that we are radiating out, we are transmitting, and we're also receiving, then the one place that we can immediately start becoming consciously aware of is our thoughts. And here's a big thing that I want to state, which for me is a problem, is that a lot of people have grown through the spiritual realm, or kind of started looking at spirituality with the mistaken belief that to meditate means you need to be quiet. And of course, being quiet, yes, being quiet in silence. But a lot of people believe they have to quieten their mind. And whilst that might be a goal, or it might be something that you manage to achieve, for me, if you really just look at that, you are missing a whole realm of being able to work with your thoughts in a positive way. You are missing out on imagination. You are missing out on self-reflection. You are missing out on conversations that you can hold with your mind. And this is not going crazy, right? I talk to myself a lot, even verbally, because if you can create a relationship where you are in constant communication with your thoughts, that's where you can become more self-aware. You can start to become the master of those thoughts. Hi, Emma Jane. The master of those thoughts, and you can become to change them. Because if you can master your thoughts, then you are well on your way to becoming a magician. Okay? So what I wanted to also cover here, and please ask questions if it's not clear. If we are this energetic transmitter, if energy never dies, and if energy follows thought, what do we think is going to happen if we hold a negative intention for somebody and we think about that continuously? Well, what happens as an energy package? It starts off being generated in our field. We think about it more often. As we think about it more often, we ruminate it on it. We build the energy, the emotion around it. And before we explode, that feeling sends this package of energy out to the particular person that we're thinking about and lands in their field. Now, how do you think that person is going to react when they suddenly start to begin to pick up this frequency that essentially was your thought, but has now become a wavelength of frequency in their field? Okay. Now we start to understand the interconnectedness of everything. Because I have seen some very, very severe cases of psychic attack. Now, psychic attack is a word that we use in healing circles to describe something that has been intentionally sent into your field and causes negative harm. So, for instance, I might have a client that arrives with a sore back. And as soon as that client sits down, I might see a dagger in their back, because that's how spirit communicates to my mortal mind, is through symbolism. Not only do I see the dagger in the back, I get an idea of the emotion behind it, be it jealousy, be it rage, be it resentment. Now, if there is an element of energy like rage, rage as an energetic frequency has a powerful amplitude. It sends energy far out of your field, right? So that thought that originated in someone's field has now become embedded in someone else's field and has caused harm. As a healer, I remove that with compassion for all involved. But what has become so very clear to me, and I'm so fervently obsessed with this, is that thoughts create things. And we know that, right? Energy first, matter second. But we fail to realize that if thoughts create things and we want to manifest and all do all those good things, then what are we doing about our own thoughts? And what are we doing about those thoughts we hold for other people? Now, I'm not saying become numbskull, non-thinking humans, because it is not possible, I do not think. But what I am saying is that you can master your thoughts by making a choice to become more aware, by making a choice to align yourself to more positive, high frequency thought waves. So let's talk again, how do we do that? Well, let's say a thought pops into your head, right? And let's just take a simple one, like I need to eat more fruits, whatever it is. Now, if you ignore that and not act on it, it might continue popping, I need to eat more fruit, I need to eat more fruit. But only when you act on it does it actually have an energetic pulse that creates a change within your system. Now, likewise, a negative thought, if you can catch a negative thought before it gets repeated or before it gets past your field, you can actually dissolve and move it into something else, because energy doesn't die, but we can transform it. A powerful tip to transform a negative thought is to laugh at it. I know it sounds weird, right? But I do this all the time, because laughter is like one of those vibrations that pops the negative bubble. So this little bubble of negativity might suddenly appear in your field, and you suddenly look at it. And when I say look at it, you're becoming aware of it, right, in your mental field. And you just laugh at it and say, well, how ridiculous is that? That bubble pops and gets transmuted immediately into something positive. And of course, this takes discipline. And of course, it takes self-awareness, right? But if we are to acknowledge that we are energy and that energy follows thought, then we have to become more consciously aware of the thoughts we hold within ourselves and for others. Because, and again, let's take another example. We're energy. Out there, there's social media, there's news, there's all kinds of negative stuff. And we decide to get involved in that, right? We send our energy out, and the more we invest in it, the more we ruminate over it, the more energetically we're investing in that field of negativity. Now, in order to bring that back, the first step is to realize and become responsible, like, oh my God, my energy is so invested in that, right? And I'm not saying don't have thoughts about it. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is, by taking responsibility for your field and what you hold, you will immediately lasso that back. You step inside of yourself. You do whatever techniques you have to bring in a center, breathing, meditation, yoga, running, whatever it is. And then you start to assess those things that are going on. You start to become aware of your thoughts, and you ask yourselves, which one is loving? Which one is good for me to hold on to? And which ones are not good for me to hold on to? And again, let me reiterate here, I'm not telling you to start being non-thinking humans, right? I think a lot. I analyze a lot. I'm curious. What that does is, I call them antenna. Like, like ferns unfurl and roll out. Well, the more you can develop a sense of coherence and self-calm, the more these front antennae can roll out and move to the higher realms, so that you're not stuck just with your radio frequency and your tuning on this conscious level with all the chattering. that you take the time to extend those antennae out to begin to reach the higher realms of your own mind and the higher realms of infinite wisdom in the universal or God mind. Because the power of imagination has been understated. If you're not using your imagination on your spiritual path, then you're losing out. You are missing out. Because that visual representation that comes to you as an imaginative thought is actually the field talking to you. Because humans can only really receive that very highly complex information through symbolism, through images, through simple words. So when you get something, it's going to be an image, or it's going to be 3 or 4 words. It's going to be that aha moment when it drops in. And when it drops in, it's going to be maybe while you're just washing the dishes and doing something mundane. But it will only drop in if you have developed a capacity to become so self-aware that you know what is your thought and what is a regular thought. And you know when it's something new. Because let's talk something important there too. In this realm of psychic attack, right, where I've said that intentionally harmful thoughts can interact and interfere with others negatively, you can be on the receiving end. But if you have not developed a sense of self-awareness about how your thought process works, you will not recognize that that thought coming in is not yours. Because if you continually think bad thoughts about yourself, you're not going to recognize that a bad thought is coming towards you. So it's critically important that you clean up your act here, that your mental aura, your mental field is slowly going to be cleaned out by developing responsibility for your thoughts, by developing a self-awareness, and by building a conversation. Now, you probably will have all heard about journaling as a way of seeing and reflecting back on your thoughts. Talking to yourself is another one. I do that. But you can also use something fun like being a third party. Right? I mentioned this to a client the other day. Create for yourself an avatar that is your higher self. And when you want to tune into that, imagine that avatar, because a lot of people say to me, how do I know I'm talking to my higher self? How do I distinguish between a regular thought and intuition? Well, you practice. And you spend time in silence and solitude as a way of getting in touch with yourself. Because again, the most important thing in building this new earth with new frequencies is to look at yourself first. You are the person that's creating this field. You and only you, in the present moment, with your full awareness and being conscious of what is going in your field and what is coming in, what is going out, what is happening in your field. And of course, there are emotions and all of those kind of things, but I'm not talking about that today. I'm talking about your thoughts. So that if you are aware, I'm going to read your message now, Elizabeth. If you are aware that for the most part, you say nice things to yourself, and then one day something comes in like really negative and you're like, oh my God, I didn't expect this. It might not be you. It might be that friend who you told 3 weeks ago, I can't talk to you anymore. It might be that sister who's been on your back trying to manipulate you that you've suddenly put out of your field. Because if they are not aware of their thoughts and where they're intentionally sending them, they will find you. Because we are all connected. Right? We are all in one field. So I'm going to read. Good one, Elizabeth. We are exposed to people who carry heavier vibrations. We are surrounded by people at the moment whose thoughts are heavy, who are not aware of their thoughts, and who are not very self-aware. And this is with all due respect and kindness to those people, right? If you are a person like Elizabeth, who is more aware and tries her best to hold a higher vibration. What do we do in the instance when someone comes into our field, all of a sudden jam-packed full of negative stuff? Elizabeth, we hold our vibration. You might have to dust yourself off afterwards, and you might have to go and sit in the garden or whatever it is that cleans you out. But if you can hold within your heart a frequency of compassion for that person, irrespective of what they're bombarding you with, you automatically create this bubble for yourself that will hopefully remain clean. But I'm not denying that you might come away with that icky stuff, right? My daughter, who is very sensitive, when she was very little, she used to go, another day. I'm hoping that my connection is stable. And everyone is protecting your field, absolutely. Hold your frequency. But if someone hands you, exactly. If someone hands you this dirty ball, because that's what it is, right? As they're venting, I call it emotional vomit, actually. It's a nice word, right? Here's the imagination. Okay, I'll give you this trick. This is where spirit helps while we're talking. If you know someone is coming and they come to visit you and you choose to remain their friend, and they are coming with this frequency of emotional vomit. That's what I call venting. Venting is emotional vomit, and there's a place for it, but you need to be aware of it. You can visualize yourself, Elizabeth, with a rainbow-colored umbrella. Don't laugh. Imagination is very powerful. That's how we work with our energy. With a yellow, orange, pink rain jacket, Wellington boots, gloves, everything. And when you're sitting talking to this lady, you imagine yourself protected from that emotional vomit in whatever way, and you can be creative. And you shake and dust yourself off. But you don't take that ball and pass it on to somebody else, because that's another thing. That's what gossip is. And again, we're talking thoughts, but also talking speech here, is that if someone hands you something, which is what gossip is, they hand you this piece of information. They hand it to you and suddenly you're like, oh, they've left now. What do I do with it? Well, you know what? You visually and imaginatively, creatively hand it over, let that ball slide into the earth, and you ask the earth to take it and transmute into something positive, and you leave it there. Because too often we are juggling these balls of social media vomit, of social media unrest. And I'm not saying it's good or bad, please, there's no judgment here. But energetically, we're talking everything energy. If you take it and you suddenly combine it with your anger and frustration and you pass it on to somebody else, we are creating a snowball effect where this accumulation of thoughts and heavier frequency just builds in our field and builds in everyone else's field. And that is not how we're going to create a peaceful, loving society. Okay, I'm rushing. I'm just reading news. Yes. Rashmi, we can only ever be responsible for ourselves, right? And that's a difficult one, because we want to go out there and actually tell people, do you not see what it's doing to you? But trust me, I've lived with enough people in my broader circle of influence who hold that vibration and haven't changed, to know that your only role, Rashmi, is to stand in your light with the clearest intention for a peaceful, loving, harmonious world. Because just like one candle lights another, you light them up by holding your frequency, not by stepping into theirs. And you continually clean yourself up through meditation, through energy healing, through whatever mechanism you can, to let go of those vibrations and that they don't end up like birds. Because some people are very good, right? With their thoughts and that, they're not necessarily attuned to higher realms, but they are very good at laser balling stuff, because they think so often and so focused on a particular negative thing that it becomes like this bird. I'm reminded of a terrible thing I did, I think, when I was 10 with my group of friends, where you have those things used to pop out. Anyway, I won't go that story, but it's like that. Just as a powerful, positive thought can have a huge amplitude and reach a place, so can a negative. So if someone, and you know those people because it's like it's coming out their mouths, you can see it coming out of their mouths. And if you want to watch about words, then I've got a video, Speak No Evil, I think on my Facebook or something. But anyway, go and watch that because that's also important. But we're talking thoughts, right? So you really do change the world by holding your vibration and holding your frequency. I'm trying to check my notes, make sure I haven't forgotten anything. And Rashmi, by going into their field, make very sure that you're not sending out an energetic tendril and hooking yourself into them, because we can do that. Because if we have a strong intention for them to change, that creates an energetic shoot off from our field and create a little like fishing hook that can end up tucked behind them. And they might feel it and get irritated with whatever you have to say because there's this layer between you where they feel you want to change them. And so they're going to fight that because they don't want to change. So it really is each person's responsibility. And where we are now, unless I can say with certainty, because I see it every day in my meditations, and I've spoken about this in one of my past videos, we are becoming more polarized. We are being sent off into our corners so that we can think about what our belief is, that we can become more self-aware, and we can look at what are those things within us first that we need to change. You know, the mask is an interesting one. On my run this morning, I was also thinking about that. 3 things. First of all, I can't breathe. George Floyd, many people can't breathe with the mask on. It's because people have retracted their stress. They literally can't breathe. Secondly, it's like we're being forced to kind of be in our own space, consider our own thoughts and words. What are we saying? What are we holding in this field, which is our voice field? And then thirdly, the self-care symbolism, where we really need to self-care. And self-care isn't going off for massages and pedicures. That's beautiful, but that's not self-care. Self-care is taking responsibility to make the time to sit in silence and solitude and to contemplate your field. Contemplate yourself as energy. And maybe you want to do this while we're talking, right? Is if you had to jot down, you can do this afterwards, find a piece of paper and a pen and go and jot down just 3, let's not make it complicated. Jot down 3 energies you believe you hold within your field. And then maybe 3 energies you want to hold. Now, what is an energy? An energy is anything. It's an emotion, it's a thought, it's a vibration. So maybe you think that you are generous. That's a vibration. Maybe you believe that you are kind. That's a vibration. Maybe you believe you're curious. That's also a vibration because it affects our antenna as they reach out into the universal field. So whichever one of those is who you are, ask yourself whether you want to build on it. Ask yourself what else you want to bring into your field and really spend time to understand what that means. And if you are in self-doubt or if you are in self-beating up mode, those are the first things you need to shift. Because if you are walking a spiritual path, then you know, well, hopefully, you hold a belief that we are more than this physical body, that we are more than just our conscious mind. And if you acknowledge then that you are energy and vibration, then are you working on it? I'm going to let that sink in while I have a sip of water. Are you working on it in the way you need to act as that oscillator, right? Because again, let's share with you an image I had. So the world's shaking up. For those of you that watch Gym Bunnies, because I've got 3 teenagers, they show me these clips, and I'd love to be able to do it, but I'm not strong enough. Is those ropes, they shake, right? They shake the rope at one end, and it kind of just goes, they give a big thing and it wobbles down to the end. Well, these big ropes of energy that has lived on this planet for so long, of being rattled, of being shaken. The big rope energetic matrix of racism, the big rope energetic matrix of patriarchy, the big rope energetic matrix of greed. These are all matrices that are wobbling, and they're causing energetic frequency disturbances in the upper layers of the earth and the upper layers of our astral plane. You are in that space, right? And you can imagine now, all right, you're standing on ground, but you're feeling it shaking and you can feel it moving. Your power lies in you holding one of those things and changing its amplitude and frequency so that it doesn't continue that. Can you visualize that? Because it's a very complicated idea, but I'm trying to put it forward symbolically so that we can all understand, including me, right? So there's this huge thing going. If you step into that and continue that warbling, whether you're talking to somebody else, whether you're letting them give you stuff and you hold it, that wobble is going to continue. You want to come in, you want to grab hold of it, and you want to center it within your physical body by doing physical movement or exercise that keeps you consciously aware and focused. By taking time in meditation or just mental awareness to understand what's going on in your thoughts. Become more aware of yourself. It is the greatest act of self and global healing you can do right now, to do that work, to do the inner work. I think I've kind of spoken enough. What's the time? 35 minutes, yes. So it's a very complicated subject that I hope I've managed to convey in some way that you understand. But please trust me that what I see happening in some people's thoughts, what I see happening in their fields as a result of someone else's thought, these interactions are very real and very powerful, like extremely powerful. And so even if you're engaged in all the conspiracy theories, of which there are many, you are adding to that frequency and you are creating a higher amplitude and therefore adding a higher vibrational path to that. Think of the image of that ball that I told you about, the snowball, the dung, the dung beetle. Well, in Africa, we have dung beetle. It kind of gathers that up and it grows and grows. Ask yourself, am I adding to this layer of negative thought energy by continuing to share that, or does it stop with me? And if it stops with you, use your imagination to create some image in your mental mind, in your conscious mind, that allows you to shift it, because imagination is critical. I've made a video on this, but I just need to edit it and upload it. Imagination is key, because that's how your mind communicates with spirit in the universal field. It's the language of the fifth dimension. So use it. Elizabeth, protect yourself with stuff. Imagine yourself in these cloaks when someone comes and starts bombarding you with their emotional vomit. If you feel you've been left with something and your field feels agitated, go away, sit somewhere quiet, imagine what it looks like, ask for an image. Say, what does it look like? And you might see it. And you might see it as this writhing snake, or you might see it as a dagger or something sharp in your heart. Then, if that's the case, imagine yourself taking it out. And if you can't take it out, contact me or another healer that can do it for you. Because that's what I do. I clear energy fields and I work with soul clearing so that your highest vibration can start moving through. Hold my frequency and umbrella. Great. So yes, I'm glad. Imagery, symbolism, imagination, close your eyes, ask for information. It will come to you, I promise. And if you're like me, even doing exercises, meditation, running has always been that for me. Not that I'm a fast runner, but it was when I was younger and very busy with corporate life and 3 small children. It was like I undid all those knots in my mind. I used to say then I took my mind for a run, not the other way around. And on that run, I'd kind of engage with it and say, right, where are those knots? Where do I unravel? What do I want to leave behind? What do I want to give to the earth to transmute? Because remember, energy never dies. If you can actually hold on to the one thing I said today, And that is that energy never dies and energy follows thought. You will be more careful about what you think. So I think I'm blessed enough to have supper cooked for me, which is fabulous. I am here for any questions, and please, any suggestions for talks. Sorry, I'm just reading Celeste's. Sending much love and blessings to you, Celeste. Oh, wonderful. Thank you, Kristen. Must be my run in the forest. I'm so enjoying being back in the forest again. Oh my God, I can't tell you. My soul is happy. Not that my soul wasn't happy before, but it had this restraint, like these ankle cuffs it had to work in. And now I can be back in the forest. But anyway, that's my release. But I'm glad it was useful. And Celeste, yes, we have to look for care and love and support from those people we can, because it is hectic out there. I understand. Oh, I love you back. Thank you for that. I understand. I'm also human. I deal with this. Like I said before, I have 5 teenagers in the house. Oh my God, you don't want to know how some of them are unraveling. Jumped on leads. Okay, Clara, thank you. I'm very well. So as always, I'm so deeply, deeply grateful and appreciative that you take the time to listen to me. I hope all the information is helpful. You know, I kind of spend quite a number of hours beforehand. Hello, Shohanan. Just really contemplating what it is I want to say. And invariably, I'll start asking myself questions. Oh, but how does that fit with that? And they're like, just wait, it'll come. Just share what it is you need to share today. Because I have a curious mind. And we are magical beings. We have so much potential that it just lies latent. And I see it in all of you and I feel it in all of you. And yes, I might be a utopian thinker at this point in time, but I do believe in the greater good. I do believe we're going to get to a place of much greater respect and love and compassion for all. And yeah, nature, Celeste. Nature is coherent. Nature is God for me. Nature holds a vibration that is one we all need to align to. And I've spoken about that before. Maybe I'll make another session about that because this world of energy is complicated. But I'm deeply grateful that you listen. I'm humbled by the fact you listen and you can get benefit from the information. And as long as there's some benefit, even if one person listens, I will keep sharing. So with that, I'm going to end the stream and get back to my lovely blended big family. And I send such love and blessings to you all. Please have a look out for some of my offerings. I'm feeling itchy feet, fingers, whatever, mouth. I'm feeling a nudge to actually run more online workshops because at the moment we can't get together really. But things like conscious parenting, things like developing self-awareness, and any other out there things maybe that we'd like to hear from you about. So Celeste, take care, especially if you've had a bumpy ride of late. I send you much love, really deeply from my heart. And everybody, I haven't mentioned by name, but you know who you are. Lauren, everybody, Megan, thank you. I send love to you all. I hold you all in my greater expansive spiritual heart, and we will connect again soon. Bye. Please, okay. Bye-bye.